So good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining the very first inaugural broadcast of a podcast that we have yet to name, unfortunately. But we will have a name by the time we do our second podcast. Unfortunately, we were not able to have my third generation that I want to hear present today. Her name is Kate, but hopefully she'll be here for the next one, the next two, and everything after that. But who we do have today is behind the camera. We have my nephew, Jacob, who's our production expert. He's going to do a great job of filming and sound work for us. We also have my nephew, Justin, who's back there, and he's going to be watching, making sure everything's going smooth. And he'll also be listening for sound as well. So first off, I want to thank both of those two young men because they're going to do an outstanding job of production. So what we're going to be looking at here today is we're going to be looking at a 3-generational perspective of basically what happens to families over the years, the experiences that we've had through the generations. So for instance, my dad, their grandpa, is a baby boomer. Myself is Generation X, I believe is what we were. Unfortunately, Kate, who is not here yet, is a millennial. So we're going to kind of get each person's perspective as we go along. But this first broadcast is going to be all about one person only. And that's going to be Dad here. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk about things that have happened as he was growing up, how the logistics worked throughout the family, the operational side of the farm that they had. And we're going to ask him some pretty good questions. Now, the best part about this podcast, and he'll be the first one to tell you right now, is Dad here does not have a clue about any of the questions. So all his answers will be 100% spontaneous, genuine, real, and authentic. So that'll be the best part about this. Every time we have one of these podcasts, he will not have the answers in advance. We don't want anything scripted. We simply want real world, real-time answers. So we just came back from Mass earlier this evening. There was a couple of important things that were in Father Gary's homily. 2 things that really stuck out was Father Gary talked about the importance of grandfathers and fathers as far as faith-based and making sure that the next generations understand just how important faith is. And he said you have to have strong grandfather, you have to have a strong father to make sure that faith is 100% instilled in the minds of the next generations. And I can honestly say that, speaking from myself, and I think I speak for my siblings, Brian, Brenda, and Stephen, when I say that we've had 2 phenomenal examples of great faith-based parents. Both Dad and Mom have done everything possible to ensure that they have filled us with a very, very Catholic upbringing, and we're very proud of that. And at no point in time would we have it any other way. We understand how important all the blessings we received, how important they've been to us, how important they've been to our children. And we wouldn't have had those beliefs. We wouldn't have had any of that faith instilled in us had it not been for both Dad and Mom. So I want to thank Dad for that. And there's last 2 things I want to say before we get into the questions. The 2 terms, Grandpa and Dad. Both of those 2 terms, in my opinion, and I'm pretty confident in just about most of the people out there that are going to be watching this podcast, what they're going to equate to those 2 words, Grandpa and Dad, are 2 terms, respect and admiration. So when you're a grandpa, you get all the admiration in the world. Everybody wants to be like you. They want to be everything about Grandpa, and whatever Grandpa likes, and I can speak for all the grandkids, they love. Whatever anybody else likes doesn't matter. Just whatever Grandpa likes. And respect. So the respect part of it comes with age, and it comes with an understanding that, first and foremost, he's experienced a lot more than I have, and I've experienced a lot more than my sons, our nephews, and our nieces. And I think that as that goes along through the years, they will also appreciate what we've been doing to instill faith and everything that we've got from Mom and Dad into their mindsets. So, Dad,
Okay.
congratulations. This is the first podcast. You do not know the answers. Is that correct? You have not seen a single question.
No.
No scripted answer.
No scripted answer.
So we're going to get started. So first off, go on and introduce yourself.
I'm Norbert Pekar, and I was born and raised in Shiner, Texas. And
How old are you, Dad?
I'm 76.
76. All right,
Yes.
good.
And I'm married Teresa, which is my wife.
Right. And how long have y'all been
And
married?
We've been married 52 years, and my wife comes from Telfner. And so that's the name of it.
Well,
But I was born and raised on a farm in Shiner with 9 siblings. And we were brought up on a farm, 50-acre farm just outside of Shiner, about 2.5 miles going towards Gonzales. And what we did was raise corn, cotton, peanuts, peas, and also we made our own sugar cane from molasses.
see, that's one thing I didn't know right off the bat. I didn't know that y'all raised
Right.
peanuts.
No, yeah. Oh, peanuts?
Yeah, I didn't know y'all
yes.
raised peanuts.
Oh, yes. We planted like maybe 4 acres of peanuts each year.
So you learned something new. I had no idea y'all did peanuts.
Yeah, no, we planted peanuts, and that was the dirtiest, filthiest job I ever did.
What was so dirty and filthy about it?
Well, what you did was you went ahead and you plowed the peanuts up. They just take sweeps and go plow them up, turn them up, and then you had to go in there and shake the peanuts. And you'd shake them out,
Mhm.
and you put them on a pile, and then you load them up, and you haul them to this trasher. It was a trasher, and they just fed the trasher, put a sack under there, and all the peanuts would be trashed into that sack.
They were shaking too at the
They
same
were
time?
shaking
Yeah,
at
get
the
everything
same
off them?
time.
All right.
So that's the way the peanuts went.
All right, great.
And if we made, there were sacks upon sacks. So it was something to see. But the other thing is the cotton farming. We farmed over probably 100 acres of cotton and corn, probably 150 altogether. A lot of that was corn and cotton. And you talk about hot picking days and hot chopping days. Every time we saw that rain cloud coming, we got happy. But our deal didn't last long because Daddy was a hard worker.
We're going to go into that. Hold on, I got some really good questions about that. So first off, there's 4 children that you and Mom have. Myself, Brian, Brenda, and Steve.
Right, we have 4.
All right, good. So let me ask you this, because this was one of the questions. I'm hoping you get it right, but this is number 1 question that I can't wait to see how you respond. So, can you name all your grandchildren in the order they were born from oldest to youngest?
Yes.
Let's start out.
Okay.
Let's start out with Alec, because we know he's
okay.
oldest.
Well, Alec, yeah, okay. He's more or less a step grandson.
Right.
Alec, and then we have Jared, and then we have Zachary, then we had Jacob, then we had Justin. After Jacob came Kate, I'm sorry.
There you go, that's
then
all right.
Justin.
Right.
And then Carl, then Caroline, and then Sophia, and then Tyler.
Right. Now,
so that's 10 grandkids.
That's 10 grandkids. But
Okay.
remember, we still got one more that's already in the family, and we got one more that's coming in October. Who are those 2?
One more in the family and one more.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. We're having we have Mahogany already.
Who's Jared's wife?
Jared's wife.
Right.
Joined that they got married, and then we have Morgan that's coming. That Alec and Morgan are fixing to get married in October.
Absolutely. We're all looking forward to that.
Yeah,
So that's going to be a really nice
yes.
wedding. All right, good. So you did hit him. I was wondering if you were going to get that right around Justin and that age group. So
yeah,
you
that
did
was
get it
pretty
right.
close.
All right.
Yeah.
So now this is another tough one that's going to be probably a little bit difficult if you can remember it. But
Okay.
so how many siblings did you have? You said you already had 9 siblings, correct?
No, it was 9 of us altogether.
9 altogether.
It was 8 siblings.
Eight
I was
siblings.
9, and I was the 4th one from the youngest,
Uh-huh.
and the 5th from the oldest.
Okay, so that's what I want you to do now. I want you to name the oldest, starting off with Uncle Adolf, all the
Okay.
way down to the youngest.
Adolf was the oldest. Then we had Mary Ann, Agnes, Pauline, myself, Beatrice, Raymond. I'm sorry. We had Beatrice, Paul, Raymond, And then Henry.
And then Uncle Henry?
Yeah.
All right. Now, I remember this tragic event, which, to be honest with you, I did not hear a thing about. I think we were probably around the age of 20-something, maybe 24, 25,
Okay.
when we had heard that Grandpa and Grandma had twins that tragically had passed away.
Yes, they did.
I had no idea that had happened in the family. So where were those twins? Were they going to be older than you? Were they younger than you? What had happened with them?
No, both of them would have been older than I was.
They were older than
Yes, they were older than I was.
Okay, see, I didn't know that.
Yeah,
Finally around the age of 20-something, I remember finding out about it.
Yes.
I did not know that. All right. So now, this is the kind of questions when you were talking about what you've done on the farm.
Right.
So let's just start it from start to finish. So what did each day start out like on the farm? Literally, would somebody come in your room and wake all of y'all up? How would it happen? And who would do it?
Yes, usually it'd be Daddy. He was, or Mama, either one. But they would wake us up, and we'd probably wake us up around 6 o'clock. And then by 6:30 or 7, we would hit the fields. And by 9, we wouldn't eat breakfast. But come 9:30, Mama would bring us egg sandwiches with tomatoes and stuff, with homemade bread, and we'd call that a sfacina, which in Czech means like a brunch.
Oh,
It was
okay.
in between a breakfast and a lunch.
I had never heard
So
that
to
word
us,
before.
it would be considered a brunch, right to this day. At that time, we called it sfacina, which in Czech means brunch.
So all of you literally worked from 6:30 in the morning until 9 o'clock or so when Grandma would bring you brunch.
Right.
Okay.
9 o'clock, and then we worked till 12, and then at 12 o'clock we'd cut off, and we'd go home, and usually we'd get an hour, but not Daddy. He'd take 30 minutes. That was the hardest working man.
Oh, I know he
I've
was.
ever
I
saw
know.
in my
We're gonna
life.
get
Not
into
only
Grandpa.
my daddy, but my mom was.
Yes.
My mom was too.
We're going to get into that.
But, I mean, we go, and I just couldn't believe how that man would work. I mean, we took an hour, and, we were still tired, but man, he'd take 30 minutes, and he was out there going and chopping or picking or whatever it took.
The thing that always struck me about my grandpa, your dad, was the fact that Grandpa was not a big, tall man.
No, he wasn't.
You would never have thought this man had the energy of 2 or 3 other men, and he could work anybody in the table. And I found that out over the years, and I was shocked by that. So tell us a little bit about him.
He weighed about 155
Yeah,
pounds.
he was. That's true. He was
But man, I'll tell you what, he was one of the fastest. I remember him chasing me with a belt at that time.
We're gonna get into those questions too.
Okay. Well, we'll get into that later.
So you guys would work till how late in the evening?
We always worked till dark.
Till dark only? Didn't matter.
Till dark. It didn't matter.
So how would the day?
It was usually, and summer dark. It started getting dark sometimes at 8:30.
8 o'clock, 8:30, huh?
Yeah, 8:30, and then we'd come in and eat. At that time, you called it supper. Now you call it dinner.
Dinner, right.
Everything's turned back around now. But yeah, we'd eat supper, and we'd all eat together at the table. Say our prayers and eat. And after that, we might sit around and talk maybe for about an hour, and then after that, everybody was tired. Everybody hit the sack. We didn't stay up till 11, 12 o'clock like some people did.
So this was another question I had. So did Grandpa work you 6 days a week, 5 days a week?
Yeah,
what did Grandpa believe in?
Oh, Dad, he worked 6 days a week.
Except Sunday.
6 days, yes.
Yeah, I believe that. 'Cause
Sunday
that
he
sounds
would
like
not
him.
work. Only one time that we did work on a Sunday, and that was a hurricane coming. And we had all that cotton in the field. And Daddy said,
Do you remember which hurricane?
man, I hate Carla. I think
Oh, it was Carla.
Carla. I was still at home. I'm almost positive it was Carla. And he said, we got all this cotton there in the field. So he said, I'm going to pick. Well, and of course, everybody else joined in, and we all went and picked cotton. But that was the only Sunday we ever picked cotton. We never did work on Sundays. So.
Wow.
But,
So did each of you have very specific chores around the house that weren't related to anything farm-wise? Did somebody have to make sure the lawn was mowed? How did it work? What were the chores you specific? Who had to feed the cows? Who had to feed the hogs? How did that work?
it was different ones, but I have to feed the hogs too. But every day before school, we sold milk also, which I didn't mention.
I didn't know that. No.
Yeah, we sold milk. Wheeldrop Creamery was there at that time, but I think we sold ours to Schulenburg. They would come by. You'd milk the cows, and I usually had to milk like 2 cows before going to school in the morning.
What time did you?
So I had to get up like around
I was gonna
5
say.
o'clock.
5 o'clock?
5:30 up in there.
Wow.
And I'd milk 2 cows, but it took me as long to milk those 2 cows as it took Daddy to milk 4. And I mean, we always had a 10-gallon can of milk.
Yeah.
That we take out to the road, and then the big dairy truck would come and pick it up, and they haul it to Schulenburg. At first it was the Wheeldrops. We had to haul it to Wheeldrops, but then I don't know if Wheeldrop went out of business.
How far was that from the house?
Wheeldrop from the house, he was just in town, so it was
Oh, so it wasn't
about
that far.
2.5 miles,
Okay,
I would say.
All right. So now some of these are just kind of general questions, but what did you enjoy the most about growing up on the farm? What was it that you really wish, looking back, that you had enjoyed more?
The most I enjoyed
What did you
growing
do?
up on the farm was playing baseball with my brother through the noon hour. And Daddy always got so mad. He said,
Thought you were wasting time?
"Boys, is that all y'all got to do? Y'all should be resting." 'Cause, he says, "How y'all gonna do any work?" But at that time, I mean, energy was no problem.
Because you were still so young.
Oh yeah, so young.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
we could play ball and go in out there and pick cotton like 100 miles an hour. It didn't matter.
But boy, all Grandpa cared about was your energy to pick
Oh
cotton.
yeah,
and
Grandpa wanted to
everything
cut
else.
it down or what. But like I say, he was one of the hardest working.
Oh, I know he
persons I
was.
ever-
Believe me,
I
I
ever
heard the
saw.
stories too.
I don't think no man could keep.
I know, I heard stories. So what did you enjoy the least about daily life on the farm?
The least I enjoyed was when we'd come home from school
Uh-huh.
and we had scrap cotton. And you talk about
What is that? What is scrap cotton?
Well, what we did is we picked the cotton, and after we picked all the cotton and had it ginned and baled, we thought we were through.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden, here a bowl would pop up,
Oh.
and so you may have to run through 2 acres to get 50 pounds of cotton.
Wow.
But that's what we had to do. And that's one thing I hated the most.
Scrap
Going out
cotton,
there
huh?
and pick that scrap cotton.
So you came from a large family, as we're well aware.
Yeah.
So what were the family dynamics like? Because I'm assuming there was probably 2 different generals in the house. Number one, and maybe I'm wrong, but Grandpa ran everything outside the house, and Grandma ran everything inside the house.
Yes.
Was that the case?
That was definitely the case.
Okay, so
yes.
what would happen on Grandma's end when you came into the house?
Oh, and Grandma,
Yeah.
when you came into the house, Grandma always had homemade baked bread.
Oh, yeah.
She
Oh,
had
that was
homemade baked
delicious.
bread. Oh,
Oh,
my
yeah,
God.
that was delicious.
Not only that, but let me tell you something else. There wasn't a Sunday that she didn't bake us papa seed, prune,
Oh, her papa
and
seed.
apricot kolaches.
Oh, I loved her papa
Oh,
seed. Those
my
were delicious.
God, she
Absolutely.
made those every Sunday. And not only that, she fixed the meal, but Mama didn't only just fix the meal, she also worked in the fields.
Grandma would go out in the fields
Grandma
too.
worked in the
See,
fields.
that's something I didn't know either.
Yeah, she chopped cotton and she picked. Of course, she had to take off a little earlier.
Yeah,
to
get everything
go
ready.
home and fix lunch, and of course she had clothes to wash. It was like I say. I mean, it was a lot of us there.
I had no idea. See, I've
Yeah.
learned 2 new things
Yeah.
today I never knew before.
But I tell you something else is, we didn't get electricity till we were. Till
All
I
right,
was,
you're getting ahead of me.
Okay.
I guarantee you that's coming. All right.
okay.
So, who would you interact with the most? Because you were basically right around the middle-ish area.
yeah.
So, as a middle child, who would you interact with the most, and what would y'all do as far as interaction goes? Now, you said baseball,
Yeah.
but who would you play baseball with at 12
Paul,
o'clock?
Paul was
Uncle Paul?
Yeah, Uncle
Okay,
Paul
great.
would have been the one that I interacted with the most.
Okay.
Adolf was a little older for me, and
Yeah.
that was the only. Paul was the next one, close to my age.
Uncle Paul was.
Yeah, so
Okay, great. All
we
right.
played a lot of ball together, and
Would you
did a
say
lot
Uncle
of
Paul was the
nice
one you
things.
were the closest to?
Well, I don't want to pick any favorites.
No, we're not asking
You
about
know,
favorites,
yeah,
but
but I don't want to say.
you
that.
usually stayed with Uncle Paul on baseball. and
Well,
those
yeah.
things.
So if you're asking who I played the most
Yeah.
with, yes, it probably
was Uncle Paul.
Uncle Paul. Yes.
Okay, great. All right. So
I
now,
mean, Paul, my brother, he's not my uncle.
yeah, Uncle Paul. I know
Right.
what you mean. All right. So this is a couple of ones that you're probably going to have to remember back a little bit. But When
Okay.
you first started working for a paycheck, not grandpa, but when you first started working for a paycheck, what job was that gave you your first paycheck or paid you cash?
My first paycheck.
Yes,
Oh, first paycheck
first paycheck.
was a Temple Lumber Company that I
And
started
that's there in
working for.
Shiner.
There in Shiner, yes. It was a lumber company there in Shiner. In fact, I think it was about 3 of them down there, but that's the one I went to work for, and I think I worked there about 6 months, and from there I came to Victoria.
Okay, so we're gonna get into that. So
Okay.
from Victoria, when you went to Victoria, who did you work for in Victoria?
Well, I started out with Victoria Linen,
Right.
and I stayed there like 5 years.
Right, exactly.
And then after that, I went and I worked for Goodyear as a service manager for 1 year.
Mhm.
And after that, I went Dentler Potato Chips.
Oh, I remember
and
that.
stayed
Yeah, I
there
remember all those.
forever.
Yes, exactly.
Until they changed. They kept changing names, going from
They ended up with
Morton
Anheuser-Busch,
to
which was
Wise.
the last
Yes,
one. Yeah.
yes.
And we're going to go over those in another podcast because
Okay.
believe me, that's
Okay.
coming down the line.
Okay.
Now, when did you learn to drive and who taught you? So, what did you learn to drive on? Because I got a feeling I know the answer.
What I learned to drive
Yes.
old pickup
Okay.
in the pasture,
Yeah.
and Daddy more or less showed me how to drive.
So, was it 3 on a tree with Grandpa?
Oh,
Was
yes, it was
it?
definitely
And that's how you learned?
3 on the tree.
Okay, great. And Grandpa's the one that taught you?
Yes.
All right.
I don't know how well he taught me, though, because I failed my first 2 tests.
Why did you
So-
fail? What happened?
I don't know. I just thought I knew everything and didn't read the handbook and went over there and took it. And second time I did pass, but the first time I failed
You
because
did.
I thought I knew everything. You know how young kids are now.
Oh, believe me, I know. I
Even
got 2
then,
of them, yeah.
we knew everything.
Oh, of course. So, what was the first vehicle you bought?
The first vehicle I bought was a 1950 Chevrolet. It had
Really?
no motor. No motor.
This is
So-
news to me. I've never heard this before.
So, oh, you didn't?
No.
Okay, so I had a brother-in-law, Herbert.
Yeah.
Mark, which is
Uncle Herbert's gone.
Uncle
unfortunately.
Herbert's he passed away, and he got me an engine, and he and I put in that engine, and that's what I drove all through high school was that 50 Chevrolet.
I had no
And
idea.
boy, you talk about that Chevrolet. It was through hell and back. I'm
Was
surprised
it a
it
sedan?
survived.
A
It
Chevrolet
was a
sedan?
4-door, yeah.
Oh,
4-door
wow.
Sedan.
All right.
50.
Okay. So now you had talked about electricity. So this one
Yeah.
is why I was going to bring this up.
Oh, okay.
So what was life like on the farm in the late 40s? When you can probably still remember a little bit.
Yes, I can.
So did y'all have indoor plumbing? Did you have electricity? Did you have a refrigerator? Was it an electric stove, wood burning? Give us some examples of exactly how you were raised up as far as appliances.
Well, I'm gonna just go back as far as I can remember. I think we got our first electricity in 1949, and that's when we got our first tractor. But before that, Daddy and Ada would farm with mules, and then in '49 he went and he bought a brand new tractor. I don't know how. I think it was $700 for the whole tractor and implements.
Yeah.
At that time, that was '49.
Oh yeah,
that was
absolutely.
dirt
Yeah,
cheap.
yeah,
Everything.
that was.
And so he bought everything, and the colorways and all. And Adolf was the one that mainly drove the tractor.
Adolf did?
And
Okay.
I envied that boy. Every time he'd come by me and I'd be chopping that cotton or stuff, he'd wave at us.
Well,
He'd just wave at us, and I'd say, "Oh man, I can't wait to get on that tractor."
Uncle Adolf was the oldest, and unfortunately,
Yeah,
Uncle
yeah.
Adolf is gone too. We
Yeah,
wish he was
he's
around
gone,
as well.
yes.
So, now, what was the first language you learned to speak?
First language I learned to speak was Czech.
I know, right?
And I went to school and I did not know a word of English.
Because all you knew was check throughout the
Right.
house.
And I guess all the other kids just kept looking at me and wondering, what's wrong with this guy? What kind of language is he speaking here? But lucky I had Sister Cecilia, and she was a Czech nun, and she could speak Czech.
So she translated.
So she translated for me and helped me. And after the first grade, I picked all the English language.
Well, that's outstanding. Wow.
So it wasn't that bad.
I think I knew the answer to
But
that one. So
Starting the first grade, I did not know one word of English.
wow, that's phenomenal. So what did you call, for instance, your grandparents? Because I know growing up we called you Tati or Tata and
Yeah.
Mom something else too. So What did you call your grandparents or your mom and dad growing up?
Well, that's we more mainly just called them grandpa and grandma. Always.
Oh, I thought it was a
called them.
Czech name is what you would call them.
Oh, Czech
Yeah.
name. Well, yeah, at that time,
Right.
Tachicheka,
There you go,
Stashenka.
right.
Stashenka was grandma, and Chachichek was grandpa. Like, yeah.
Yeah.
Starishek. You know, it's hard for me to remember all that.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's what we called them at that time. But I don't remember my daddy's grandpa and grandma because I was too young and they passed away. I may have saw Grandma Packard one time that I could vaguely remember, but
Oh.
she passed away early. And Grandpa Packard passed away way
he
earlier
did.
than I was born.
Yeah.
But Grandpa and Grandma Malinowski, now I remember them real well. We had a 31 Chevrolet, and we'd all get into that 31 Chevrolet. Some of us be laying on the floorboard. We drive to Gonzales, and it took
Yeah.
about an hour to get to.
And in this day and age, that's absolutely
Because they
unheard of.
they live past Gonzales. But the thing that scared me the most at that time was I was small, and sometimes when that rain was real heavy, the creek would flood over there, and we had to drive. Daddy would just say, "Oh, ain't nothing to it." He'd crank that thing up, and he'd go right through it. I was so scared I'm gonna drown because I never learned to swim.
Oh, I know
still
that.
can't
I know
swim
that.
today.
I know that.
So yes, that was scary, but Grandma was the same way. Grandma Malinowski over there, she always, and the one thing I remember was when I was a little boy, and I guess this was couldn't have been over. I think Grandpa died in '49, if I'm not mistaken. So I was 5 years old, and I remember I went into the room, and I saw, they told me Grandpa wants to see you. Well, Grandpa was dying, and he was laying on that room, and I was so afraid to go in there. And so they finally told me, well, go in there. Grandpa wants to talk to you. So I went in there and sat down on the bed, and the next thing I know, Grandpa gave me a nickel, and I'll never forget that. He gave me a nickel, and that's how I remember Grandpa passed away.
Mm. Now, these are the ones that are going to come much later on. So these you can tell us a little bit about. So when and where did you first meet Mom?
Oh, Mom.
Yeah.
Well, we were at Ray Wilson's in Victoria.
What was that?
She was with her friends. I think she was with two friends. Rosie was one of them, and I can't remember the other one.
But what was
anyway,
Ray Wilson's? What was that?
That was a drive-in.
Oh, it was a drive-in.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just a drive-in. And what we did, well, at that time I had just bought a brand new '67 two-door hardtop Ford.
The red Fairlane?
And boy, that attracted my
That was the red one, right? Oh, yeah. I remember pictures of that car.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And as soon as we started going together, I let her have that car and I drove hers.
Hold on, let me ask you something. You just said that's what attracted Mom. Are you sure that's what you want on camera right now?
No.
Okay, that's probably a good idea. So you met Mom. When did you know that it was true love and that you couldn't do without her?
Oh, I think from the very beginning.
Really?
From the very beginning.
Outstanding.
Yes.
That's great.
After we met, and we weren't even going together, probably, I think we were going together maybe about 8 months after we got married.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow, that was quick.
But I drove from Victoria to Yoakum just about every night for.
Victoria to Yoakum?
Yeah,
That's about
Victoria
40 miles,
to Yoakum,
right?
And there I had to go and open up at the late service at 5 o'clock in the morning.
Wow.
So I put some hard miles on that.
I'll bet you did on that car.
Yeah.
Which celebrity, and I think I know the answer, but which celebrity, out of all the celebrities that have ever lived, ever in the world, which celebrity would you love to have on our podcast that you could just talk to one-on-one as well?
Which celebrity?
Yeah, which celebrity?
Johnny Cash.
That's what I knew was coming. So you've always loved Johnny Cash. I know you love his music. So
Yeah.
I kind of knew the answer to that one.
Yeah.
As well. All right, great.
But let's go back to that.
Sure.
Making them molasses. The way you make the molasses, you had the cane stalks.
Mhm.
Cane grows. It grows about maybe 7 feet, 8
Yeah.
feet tall. And what you had to do, you had to go strip all the leaves. And then when you stripped the leaves off it, you had a cane that looked just like a cane pole.
Yeah.
After it was stripped. And what you did, you load that in the back of the wagon. And you cut it at the ground and then load them up in the back of the wagon. And you take it to this guy. And what he had a press that went like this around. And he had a mule just pulling
Pulling it around, right?
pulling it round and round. And what you did, you fed the cane into the press, and it would put out all the juice into a huge pan.
Right.
The pan was 8 foot long and about 5 feet wide, 4 feet wide. And after all that juice got in there, he would put a fire. He'd light a fire, heat it all up, and he'd keep cooking that thing and stirring it till it finally became a syrup.
Wow.
And that's the way. And
So-
then we put it in gallon jars and we take it home.
So
All that molasses turns
is there
brown.
anything else you want to talk about before we end this thing?
Let me tell you something else.